John, there's so much that goes on today with velo programs, overload baseballs, underload baseballs. For someone like you that truly, I mean, you stayed in great shape, during your career. What do you think of these things, and how bizarre is it to you?
It's very bizarre to me. We've talked about this in the past. When people asked me about my throwing program back in the day, I would giggle. I said, I don't know if I necessarily had a program. I played catch every day. I played basketball. I played football. I played all different street hockey. I did everything. But during baseball season, I didn't throw a baseball in December. I didn't throw a baseball in January when I was a kid. When baseball season came around, I basically had to catch every day. I would throw some bullpen sessions, one, maybe two during the week, long toss a couple of times during the week. If my arm felt a little tired or sore, I would ice it and or not throw for a particular day. So when I see some of these crazy programs, and when I go do private lessons, I see somebody left their weighted balls there or their arm bands and all these different things. I never really did any of that stuff. I'm not saying they shouldn't do any of that stuff, but I am a firm believer that everybody's not built for those things. And that's the thing that I'm concerned about. It's not a one-size-fits-all program.
Oh, my God. So that is my thing, right, as well. Nothing's cookie cutter.
Right.
You can't take an 11-year-old kid and give him the same program as a 15-year-old kid that may be physically mature, just stronger or more athletic or less athletic. The one thing we know is kids are not throwing every day. My thing used to be when I pitched, and I didn't pitch at your level, but if I pitched on a Sunday, Monday I was going to have a catch from 40 or 50 feet. I might work grips, right? Whatever didn't work that day before, if my changeup was off, I would just have a catch with changeups. I was getting the blood flowing in my shoulder. Kids aren't doing that today. They're not doing that today. I understand that in 2024, everything, we've all fallen in love with velo, right? Everything's velo. And we've discussed it before. The guys like you, the guys like Rick Maddox, right? Finesse guys that could spot up and knock a dime off a pylon from 60 feet, 6 inches away. Those aren't the things we stress today. We just fall in love with 100 miles an hour. And yesterday, again, it was proven, Paul Skeens struck out Ohtani on 3 pitches at between 100 and 102. And then Ohtani's second at bat, he made the adjustment and hit an absolute nuke off of him. What do we need to tell these young kids, John?
Well, it just shows speed is not everything, right? I tell all the time, every kid that comes to me, I say, how you hold your fastball? And I look at that, I go, 4-seamer, right? And the kid shows me it's a 4-seam grip. Nobody holds a 2-seam grip. I never threw a 4-seam in my life. Again, not that it's right or wrong, but I never threw a 4-seam in my life. I threw 90, 91. When I was 88, 89, balls falling off the table. That's kind of where I wanted to be. When I started getting to 91, 92, the ball would just straighten out. So I want the ball moving all the time. My biggest asset, I could throw strikes with my eyes closed. And that's what I'm trying to tell you, because I said, if I could spot in the major leagues, if I could throw a fastball and a changeup, because my slider was sometimes non-existent. So if I could get away with a fastball and changeup in the major leagues, you could do so at a little league level. I had a 10-year-old kid yesterday, we're working, breaking him down from scratch, working on his mechanics. He's like, can I throw my other pitches now? And I look at the fly, I go, yeah, what other pitches you got? He goes, curveball. I go, no, not with me, you can't. And the kid was like all dejected and stuff. I said, throw me a fastball. So he threw me a fastball, left his back leg there, stopped his arm like this. I go, that's why you're not throwing a curveball, because your mechanics aren't good enough to throw a fastball yet. I'm not going to have you throw a curveball with poor mechanics. That's where you're going to get hurt.
So mechanics is one, strength is two.
Absolutely.
See, one program that I'm a big believer in, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, it's called crossover symmetry. And I'm a big believer in it, and here's why. It's a band program. Basically what it is if this is the acceleratory muscles, the muscles behind the scap are the deceleratory, right? So we have gas and we have brakes. Well, what crossover symmetry does, shout out to crossover symmetry, is every band exercise is done to both sides of your body.
Right.
So now I'm not just working on my throwing side. I'm working on both sides, doing all different exercises so that I'm strengthening every muscle. I couldn't agree with you more, John. I went to a 10-year-old championship tournament baseball game. and the kid on the other team, it was a close game, and the kid on the other team started snapping off curveballs at 10 years old, and he was good. I mean, the kid was phenomenal. I don't know his coaches that well. I do know them, and I don't know his parents. I'm scared to see what this kid's going to end up being at 14. Right? Growth plates are still open. Little League elbow has almost become an epidemic at this point. We see kids between the ages of 12 and 14 that still, are really not through puberty. They're now playing on a town team, a travel team, a modified team, and some of them are pitching and catching.
Exactly.
And parents, I don't know. I don't understand why little Johnny is hurting.
Overuse.
It makes me crazy. So for me, and I'm not saying that the velo programs aren't right for some, but those kids have to be identified and ready to use. It can't be cookie cutter. It can't.
I think the same thing with the bands. Like I said, I'm a little familiar with that program, but even when I was in the minor leagues and they were making us use band stuff, they let us go to the hotel room, back to the room and do it. It was like, oh great, because I put it on a bed and I sat and watched TV for 15 minutes and then I went back downstairs because it made me feel like kind of tight. I used to argue with the strength coach in the major league sometimes. We're on the hammer strength machine. He's got plates after plates. I'm like, dude, I'm not built for this. I'm not lazy. I'm just not built for this. I felt when I was like a toothpick, that's when I got the most out of my body. I was a whip. Our buddy Rusty Meacham, right? We built like toothpicks, got a lot of whip out of our bodies, got the most out of our bodies. So, as far as the break and pitch thing goes too, changed my tune over the years. When I used to work with Coach, when we worked with kids, Coach used to go like, feel the kid's face. You got any stubble? Like, then he's a man. Well, okay, now we'll start working him. And we started changing a little bit together. Hey, this kid's pretty strong, Coach. This kid's pretty big for a 12-year-old. No, he's not going to be shameful, but he's a big kid, strong kid. He's got solid accounts. Let's toy around with it. But the whole problem with that is kid gets it or thinks he gets it. That's all he's going to throw. Absolutely. He's going to stop developing his arm by throwing fastballs and long toss and stuff. Every time it's 0-2, he's going to throw a curveball because they don't know how to pitch, when to use all that stuff. So that's why I shy away from it a little bit, because the kids that's all they'll throw.
And to throw that from 46 feet is devastating.
Yeah.
60 feet, 6 inches, now it turns into a whole other, right?
And a higher mound and everything else. Right.
Distance, but they're still not physically mature, right? It's so funny you talked about Coach that way, because I still look at people that way. Are you shaving? Do you have hair under your arms? I mean, not to sound creepy.
I know what you're saying.
I'm looking at kids' legs to see if they have hair on their legs.
Understood.
Because if they don't, there's no way. I wouldn't do it to my own son.
I wouldn't have thrown one until I was 20 then, if that's the case.
So funny. I love where my older son Jordan went to college, and he had some unbelievable coaches. Two of them had been pitchers, big-time D1 pitchers. One was drafted by the Giants. And my son had Tommy John surgery as a sophomore in college, and it was a weird one because he never tore his UCL. It was kind of like a rubber band that stretched, but it just never kind of came back. So we tried everything. We tried PRP. We tried all different stuff. And it took him a year, and he came back, and he was great. I mean, he was back. He was throwing like 91, 92. But that next Thanksgiving, I get a phone call. Hey, Pop. Yeah, what's up, Jordan? I'm going to be home for the weekend. Can you make an appointment with the doctor? I said, sure. What's up? I don't know. I have a lump. I think I might have a hernia. I said, from what?
Wow.
So here he is playing Division I baseball, and I'm going back to 2015, so about 10 years ago. As a pitcher only, he was squatting 525, right?
It's crazy.
So now here he is, my son, who's a big kid, right? My son, he's 6'3", he was 240. I almost jumped through the phone, and I go, Jordan, are you a lineman?
Yeah, right.
Right? What are you doing? So, I didn't want to be that guy, but I called the coach, and I questioned it.
Right.
He's a pitcher. He needs to be flexible. It's not all about – and that's a personal thing that happened to me because nobody took better care of their child than me. He still ended up having Tommy John surgery. He still ended up – I try to learn from mistakes And again, I don't look back and say I made a mistake. But when I see a 10-year-old snapping off curveballs, and I see an 11-year-old with 6 weighted balls in a pouch in his travel bag, and that's his warm-up, it scares me. What scares me is Paul Skeens, he uses weighted balls. He uses the aqua bags, right? There's a lot. And now because he is the newest sensation, how many kids are going to start showing up to fields?
Bunch of them.
With the aqua bag.
Yeah.
Right?
Because the dads and moms are going to buy them for him too, without a doubt.
Paul Skeen's a freak.
Yeah.
He's a freak. The guy is like 6'4", 6'5". He's like 240. He can throw a football 70 yards. I guarantee you Paul Skeens wasn't doing this at 10, 11 years old,
No
Johnny.
doubt. And all these kids, are their legs strong enough? You know, they're building up all this, but are their legs strong enough? Are their core strong enough? Is their back strong enough to support all that stuff too? And my answer is no. They're just not. They're just not. So it's a scary thing. And you know, you listen to some parents. They say, well, you know, if it gets to the bit like they're looking for that payday or something. I'm like, it's not that easy. Just because you get Tommy John doesn't mean you're going to come back better and stronger. And or you know, exactly. I know you're making a face because of Jordan, but like I said, it's there's no guarantees in that.
I don't remember the exact numbers. I'm going to shoot for 80% get back to where they were. 10% never get back to where they were pre-surgery, and then 10% may be a little bit stronger. My advice to parents always, have your kids fall in love with the game. Let them be 10, 12, 14, 16. Live in today. Maybe look at tomorrow. But don't look at 4, 8, 10 years from now.
Absolutely not.
There's no kid that I've ever spoken to that said, yeah, I'm going to be a big leaguer. When they're 10, every kid that ever put on cleats and put a glove on want to be a big leaguer.
Right.
I beg parents, let them fall in love. Let them fall in love with the right process. Learn what I need to do to get better. What do I need to do to stay healthy? How do I eat better? How do I sleep better? Turn my phone off at night. How my body recovers. When these kids are playing on 3 different teams and they're playing 5 and 6 games a weekend, how's that stuff happening?
I know. That's insane. Like I said, I told you years ago, I've nobody plays as little baseball as I did. That's why I asked Willie that question earlier. You know, how much baseball did you play as a youth? Because I think they're just playing way too much baseball. These kids are playing, before they're 12 years old, they've played more baseball than I did when I was 21 years old. I played 1 full season of summer baseball, and it was after my junior year in college.
And I don't want to say I think we don't practice enough.
100%.
We don't teach the game. We're managing games.
Right.
Because if we're lucky and we have a practice for 90 minutes to 2 hours.
If you're lucky, right?
If I'm lucky, once a week, how many kids are showing up? Because now they have a conflict. They're playing on another team.
Oh, travel team.
So I can't go over bunt defense and first and thirds if my corner infielders aren't there.
Right.
I can't go over double cuts on a ball hitting the gap if my outfielders are playing somewhere else.
Or at a graduation party because the parents don't really care about the.
Don't get me
I know that's the whole.
Oh,
thing.
don't get me started.
I know from coaching Little League, back in the day where it's like, hey, he can't throw today because he's pitching. I go, he's going to throw when I tell him to throw. If he's not, he's going someplace else. I said, my son's good enough to play on 2 teams. You pick a team, which team he's playing on. It's, your son's not any better than anybody on his team. And that used to drive me crazy. And again, you get in trouble for being brutally honest, but it's just, that's how it is. You got to, I think it's unfair when parents start doing that, when they start having the kids playing on all these multiple teams. And then when I talk to the parents, it's like, oh no, he only threw 2 innings, so he's good. I'm like, he only threw 2 innings and then he plays shortstop, right? How do you know? Well, because he's a pitcher, he's probably a good athlete, so he plays shortstop at that. How many throws did he make from shortstop? Even the warm-ups in between, the first baseman threw him 3-4 throws in between. That's all throwing, and they just don't get that, and they're burning out their own kids. They don't even realize it.
And on off days, they're going to play wiffle ball, right?
Winging it,
right? Like, yeah.
Blitz ball.
that again, it's become the norm. And then people will come into me and like, we don't understand why Johnny, had this growth plate issue.
I never heard of the term growth plate until I never heard it as a kid.
Literally,
never heard until I was probably in my 40s doing lessons. Like, oh, he has growth plate. I go, what's a growth? I didn't even know what a growth plate was. Never heard of that.
You never heard the term Little League elbow.
Once I started doing lessons stuff, not as a kid, not in high school, not in college, not playing professionally, not even when I was coaching my son. It was really later than that.
It's crazy because what Little League elbow is, for people that don't understand, is a fracture of your son's growth plates in his elbow. Yeah. We had a kid that trains here that had to get a screw put into his elbow at 13.
That's
13.
And pitch counts, the whole thing with pitch counts came up because of parents, because of stupid coaching, because of stupid parents. They said, what do you think about pitch counts? I think they're good because of coaches, not because of any reason. I threw tons of pitches when I was a kid. If you have solid mechanics, as when I was coaching, if a kid's out there and they're making errors behind him, he walks a guy, gives up a hit here and there's more errors. I'm not leaving him out there to dry because he's not strong enough to stay out there for 40 pitches, 50 pitches and then yank the kid out. It's not his fault that the rest of the team stunk that day. There's nothing wrong with taking the kid out.
John, I got to tell you, you've played at some incredible levels. You've coached. I've coached at some really, really high levels. One of my proudest things that I could tell you, 3 kids, I have won 0 Little League championships. 0.
I'm with you.
Because for me, it was about teaching and developing mechanics of every kid on the team. Mm-hmm. Every kid, whether they wanted to pitch or not in a game, that was fine. They were going to learn the mechanics of how to do it. Because for me, I wasn't doing my job, even though it was volunteer.
Yeah, right.
And I could care less about trophies. I've always wanted the kids to fall in love with the game, doing things the right way, where, again, in 2024, we want trophies, banners, plaques, and medals, and I'm going to use the same 2 pitchers through an entire Little League season because I want to beat my neighbor. My neighbor doesn't cut his grass, and I hate that guy. He makes the neighborhood look like garbage, and I want to shove the ball down his throat. People are wild, dude. People are nuts, and so for me, I want these kids really just to truly fall in love. Watch the game. I don't care what position you play. You're a catcher, you're a pitcher, you're a shortstop. Watch Volpe. Right. Watch Lindor. Watch Austin Wells. See what these guys are doing. Find out what their work ethic is when they're not on the field. Those are things for me that are the key for the next generation. And put down social media.
I'm not on any of it.
Everything that you see on social media is not real.
Right.
If I'm 12 and I'm comparing myself to an 18, 21-year-old kid, stop. Please stop.
You got to play to your abilities. I mean, that's something, again, I'm talking about minor league baseball. I show up in minor league baseball. I got my Knickerbocker Conference T-shirt on from Concordia College, and this guy's got his ring on from Texas A&M. This guy's got his ring on from UCLA. This guy's got his ring on from some other gigantic school. They've been signing autographs for 5 years already, playing at college level. But I was smart enough to say, you know what? Well, we're on the same team now. You know what I mean? 1 pick, 2 pick, 5 pick, 7 pick, 3 pick, 19 pick. I'm still on the same team as you are. Let's this guy's throwing hard at me. This guy's throwing hard at me. He hasn't thrown a strike yet. He hasn't gotten a win yet. He hasn't got, he can't. And I'm just floating along, just throwing my strikes. So, going back to the Little League with the coach and stuff, my biggest compliment was moms and dads coming, can my son play on your team? Can you get my son on your team? I carried a notebook. I didn't have the regular scorebook. I had a notebook, and I just went in and by in. I was like, oh, you played third last thing. Go sit on the bench. You play first. Go play right field. You were in right. You go play second. And that's how I did it between the innings and make the kids – give them confidence. That's what my biggest thing is. When I teach my lessons, I want to teach them proper mechanics, of course. I'm a huge mechanic guy. They all come in and throw hard. I said, you have proper mechanics, you'll throw the ball hard. As you keep getting bigger and you keep getting stronger and you have proper mechanics, you'll throw the ball harder. I've had kids this big with good mechanics, kids this big. He's throwing the ball harder. But as time goes on, this kid went right. They catch up big time because this kid's not working on it because he's just been muscling the whole time. Elbow down here, just flying it, pushing it because he was big and strong, got away with it.
Little League superstars, man.
And just give them confidence. And back to the thing of who won. I tell it all when I do the coaches because I said, does anybody know who won the Little League championship last year? I said, because I don't, and I don't care. And most of the guys know who did win, The guy who won, he probably knows, but nobody else knows and nobody else cares. It's about the kids.
But he's got that trophy in his basement. And he
with,
went to
with a
work.
spotlight on it.
He went to work on Monday and told all his coworkers, you know, he was the big guy on campus.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, baby.
Don't be silly.
All right, we'll see you again next time on 90 Feet Away.